Hey everybody, welcome back. This is going to be a build of a resin table, making it out of ambrosia maple. I'm going to do a deep red river running through it. I think it's going to be pretty cool. Well, there might have been some mistakes made. You're going to have to stick around to the end to see what exactly happened, but I'll give you a little hint. Didn't turn out to be the resin table I thought it was going to be. And I'll kind of explain what happened as we go along. So, all right, let's get to it. Okay, so these started out as some pretty nice, beautiful ambrosia maple slabs. I think they were originally about right at 2 3/4 thick or so, maybe just a little more. Did have the bark and everything on them, so that's basically what I'm doing here. Is I'm just trying to make sure I get all the bark off. This is a very, very messy process, but nonetheless, it has to be done. So, took me a little while. I have 2 slabs here that I'm working on. This here is just simply a wire brush. I actually worked on this a little bit with this wire brush, but it was such a mess and it just really wasn't doing what I really wanted it to do. So I just got smart and I went ahead and ordered me some discs. I'll leave a link to those in the description as well. They wound up working great for the rest of the project, getting the bark off and everything. So basically I'm going to turn this into a river table, like I said in the beginning, and then both of these have live edge on each side. So I just made me a couple of marks. I try to take off the same distance from the center. And this is a little trick about finding center. If you just go from one corner, measure in until you get the other side to a number that's divisible by 2, and mark that number in the middle, and that'll pretty much give you pretty close to the center. So basically I just measured off center out to the edge and trimmed this down the side. This is going to be the outside, one of the outsides. The other side's going to be the inside of the river. I'm just using my Festool track saw here to cut that off. However, you might notice this archaic tool in my hand here. Like I said, this was a pretty thick slab, and my track saw would not make it all the way through, so I had to go back to the old school method and actually use a handsaw. And basically here, just running everything through the planer to get it as nice and flat as I possibly can. These slabs were actually pretty doggone flat, to be honest with you, and I got them at my local Woodcraft here, just north of me in Chattanooga, Tennessee. I'll leave a link to their website as well. Great place. I'm actually doing some work with them on a giveaway at 500 subscribers too. They've donated a tool for me to give away, actually a Festool product. Pretty exciting. I've got some more information on that drawing in another video on my channel. So if you know anything about ambrosia maple, you know it's got wormholes pretty much all over it, which adds to the character, which gives you the color that you see from the wood. But those do have to be filled with something, so I'm just using some black Starbond CA glue, some activator, and sanding it down. Does a pretty good job. So here I've just got a full-size sheet of not MDF, melamine, which is what I'm going to use to build my mold. If you've never built a mold for a table, it's really not difficult. Yes, everyone use shop safety. I did forget my glasses there. But it's not very difficult. Basically, of course, measure it. Get it the size of whatever your slab's going to be, including your river, so you can try to get everything square. And basically, that's all you do is just butt it up to the outside, screw it in place, and go with it. One thing I would definitely do different here is I would put this tape on here in just a second that you'll see me do. I would put it on first before I screwed everything together, because it was pretty monotonous trying to keep the tape in line and tucking it into the corners. And anyway, long story short, if you're going to do this, definitely tape everything before you actually screw it together. But I'm just leaving my sides about, I don't know, about 1.5 inches or so taller than where my slabs are going to land, which is really basically all you need. Just need to be able to put some blocks across so you can clamp it down and hold your stock down to your table so you don't get a lot of resin that leaks underneath. But when you're using this deep pour resin like I'll be using, that stuff is, I think it's thinner than water actually, because if there's a place for it to get, well, it's going to get. So I ended up actually having some resin actually get under this, and I even had it clamped down very well. You just want to make sure you tape all of your sides and definitely caulk all your corners and your seams. And here I've just kind of caulked around the river. I didn't really want the resin running up onto the slab and maybe staining it because of this deep red I'm using. So basically I just mixed up some quick drying epoxy here, basically tabletop epoxy, and just brushed it on the sides to seal the wood. That way I didn't get any bubbles. Works very well. Here I've got some blocks I've actually coated with resin tape so they don't stick, just in case something does leak out. And I just basically put some, I guess, cawls, just some blocks of wood across the top just to give me some good clamping pressure down. But like I said, it still wound up leaking under it a little bit. So basically for this pour, I forget off the top of my head now what I ended up using. I'm doing 2 pours here. One of them I don't show. I'm doing a small little console table that's also going to be this same red resin in the middle of it. So when I'm mixing this up, I'm actually mixing it up for both of these pours because they're going to happen at the same time. This is eye candy. This red is actually a really, really rich, bold red. I really, really like it a lot. Basically, if you're going to do this, use a mixer. You want to make sure you get your resin mixed up. And if you noticed, I actually mixed the resin for several minutes before I even added the color. You want to really make sure you get your resin mixed up. And I'm just going to pour a good bit of it over into a smaller bucket. Just for me, it's easier to handle that way. I know you see people on YouTube all the time pouring out of a 5-gallon bucket. That's all fine and good, but I can be clumsy at times, and sure enough, it would slip out of my hand and it would go everywhere, and I'd make a mess. You can see there the color of the resin is actually very beautiful. So here, we're just going to go ahead and pour. I think I ended up letting this cure for probably almost 2 weeks before I wound up taking it out to flatten it, and this is kind of what it looked like before I took it out. So here's where the mess up came in. I bought this product off of Amazon. I'll leave a link in the description if you're interested. I think I messed up a little bit here as well because apparently you're supposed to put some blocks under this thing in between where that raises up. If you can see the little space. I guess I didn't see that in the directions. But in any case, my opinion, for the price of this, I really don't feel like you should have to put any blocks under it. It should be sturdy enough as it is. But what I couldn't notice, and you really can't notice here watching me, is as I was pushing across, it wound up deflecting downward in spots, and instead of leveling everything off, it wound up making a mess of the project. So take full blame. I should have noticed it, but I just really did not notice it until it was too late. So in the end, I wound up scrapping this project. It just wasn't going to work. I wasn't going to be able to get it to the thickness or keep it at the thickness I needed it, and also get it flat to be a table. So what we ended up doing was deciding to get some more lumber for another table, and I was actually going to turn this into another project. The customer was really cool with it. They actually wanted another project with this wood and this resin. So I had to come up with something to do. So you'll see here at the end what I decided to do with it. So I did wind up buying a Woodpecker's Pro slab flattening mill. It is more expensive, but it is certainly much more rigid. I have not even gotten it completely put together yet. It's quite a task. But anyway, I think it's going to be a lot better. So regardless, I'll leave a link to everything in the description if you want to go check some of this out. But I think it was the right decision. The things I turned this table into are great, and if you'll notice behind me in my intro, the wood you see propped up on my garage is actually the lumber that we got for the new table, and it is absolutely gorgeous. So everything happens for a reason, and I think that slab I picked up was the reason. Okay, so as I explained in the video, obviously had an issue with the slab flattening jig. It could have been completely my fault, but that's what I get for trying to save some money. However, I have actually purchased the Woodpecker's Flattening Mill Pro. I think that's the actual name of it. Haven't got to use it yet. Looking forward to doing that. Definitely going to be a lot better product, I'm pretty sure. So in the end, the customers are really, really cool about it. Explained everything to them, what happened, and not only did they still want a table, but they actually told me to do something with the current table if I could, and they would purchase whatever I made from it if they liked it. So what I elected to do with it was actually made some shelves with some brackets. Of course, with the issue that happened, I had to bring the shelves down to a good thickness to be a shelf. So they're right around 3/4 of an inch. A couple of them are a little thicker than that. So they're all matching. I've spoke with them about it, so they've got a perfect place for them in their house to display some stuff. They ended up being about 18 inches or so, maybe right at 20 inches wide, and about 13 inches deep. So they'll be a nice good shelf. Ordered the brackets off of Amazon, some heavy duty shelf brackets. I'll leave a link to those in the description if you want to check those out. They seem to work pretty good. Come with all the hardware you need to attach them and everything. So hope you got something out of the video. Hopefully you don't make some of the same mistakes I did. And I know I made a few, so all right. We'll catch you in the next video.